Hello there, my name is Dylan, and this is my speech on the mystery of Roanoke Colony. So imagine this. You get off a ship, right? And it's several months' journey. Instead of finding your family there, you find them along with 100 individuals gone, right? Vanished. Out of nowhere. With only, they hint to where they are is the word Croatoan written on the trunk of a tree. So in my search, I've gone through JSTOR and I've seen several first-hand accounts and also historians discussing the struggles and the on theories on what happened to the colonists. So the mystery is fascinating to me because this is the earliest days of European colonialization, and to present this information gives respect to the history of the area. And so, of course, the story of Roanoke Colony is one of the most elusive mysteries. The story of its founding, of course, its struggles to theories on what happened, and also essentially just confounded historians. We'll first explore the reasons on its foundation, its immediate struggles, and essentially the theories on why, on what happened, right? Their disappearance. So it's crazy to me, right? It was like the founding of the colony itself was essentially almost paralleling Spain, right? That's what English wanted to do. They wanted to essentially create like almost a base. The National Park Services notes that England's attempt at colonialization would serve two purposes, right? As a base for privateering and also just to spread culture. Early struggles for the colonists essentially were immediate. They didn't have enough supplies. They thought the land was bountiful, right? There was almost a sense of confidence. And yet, of course, this was not the case. Hostile relations, of course, essentially made them in a state of desperation. And by the next year, in 1586, they left, right? But John White, he was like, hey, maybe we do it again for a second attempt. And with essentially what happened is in 1787, John White went back. He established a family there. Actually, his granddaughter was the first English person that was born in America, right? Crazy, right? But unfortunately, they didn't learn what happened. And so by 1588, John White left in the hopes of a resupply mission. Due to delays, essentially, he didn't come back until 1590, but instead of being greeted by his family, right, they disappeared. There were no bodies, no struggle, no anything. It was just an empty village with the only thing, Croatoan, was written. And severe storms prevented him and his search party from continuing onward, with an author noting that essentially there was a dangerous sea there in storm series with small boats being upset by the sea. And so, of course, this is where questions start to arise. What happened to the colonists, right? Well, one thing is that the environment, and there were attacks on the colonists. So from the colonists' perspective, they were hungry. There was no return in sight. And so they might have packed up into smaller boats and left. It was, as one author notes, the worst drought in 800 years to hit the coast. And so, of course, they left. And possibly in this vulnerability, the native tribes essentially attacked them, right? With no struggle. Well, what happened to it? And then another theory, of course, is that they were actually assimilated into various tribes. This is the one that's very interesting to me. With no end supplied to the resupply mission, if indigenous tribes essentially welcomed them into their area, well, would have been nice, right? We're like, hey, they have food, they know how to do this. Maybe we just live with them. And one author notes that several decades later, that an Indian reports that there were several people who had characteristics of Europeans in 4 distinct villages around North Carolina. And so the general history behind Roanoke Island is told, or at least to some degree. It's whether up to you or not, you dig deeper into this attempt. Roanoke Colony, of course, is the first attempt at England. It was an unmitigated disaster with lack of supplies, to John White's return, to essentially theories of what happened. It's crazy. Whether the colonists were victims of attack, whether they essentially integrated into society, I really wonder, to be honest, just how much of these descendants actually are living today, because we don't essentially know. We know in terms of Jamestown and Plymouth how many descendants are there because it's documented. But in terms of Roanoke, if it's true that they assimilated, well, then there could possibly even be more descendants out there that then we wouldn't know. So, and that's my speech. Thank you very much.